Hello, Drunkduckers. This is Ozone Ocean. With me is, or are, Baines and Tantz. Hello.
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 Hello. So this week we're talking about time travel. No. This week we're talking about ring lights. No. This week we're talking about
Ringworm.
Ringworm. Yes. Oh, Jesus Christ. I had that when I was a little kid in 1980.
Oh no.
5, I think. Oh my god, I'm aging myself. Quarter off a cat. No, we're talking about exposition, which is what is exposition? Well, we'll talk about that in the actual Quackcast. But for now, theme music. Music. And so here we are. We're talking about exposition. And so what is exposition, guys? I mean, like, we've been doing this Quackcast for a long time, and, you know, we know each other quite well. And sort of we met in a terrible snowstorm in, I think, the year 1821, didn't we? And it was the year of this terrible eclipse. And no. See, exposition is laying the groundwork for a story. It's you're telling people about where it's set and who the main characters are, and often a really bad exposition involves a lot of setting, like way too much, telling you where everything is set and the everything about the unnecessary information about the world. So that's unnecessary exposition, and that's what we're going to talk about: how to use exposition.
Especially in dialogue.
Yes.
The vice of modern movies today, often. So.
Very much so. And bad writers, because they're everywhere. I mean, us three should be writing every new Hollywood movie. They need us and be paying us millions and millions of dollars because we know what to do and these idiots don't. Before we get into all that, we've got to bring up the featured featured comic. So, Quackcast is going to give you some exposition about Prisoner of Paint. Tell us about that, Quack.
Hello, this is Quackcast, and the feature I've selected for this week is Prisoner of Paint by Animated Armor, and it is rated T14. Heli Geis painstakingly brushes calligraphy on error-prone scrolls, under the strict amusement and watchful eye of Galadin. Today's daily lesson is missing a section on transmutation magic, a type of magic deemed useful as Heli Geis has not been instructed on combat magic. Galadin placed a curse on Heli Geis over 10 years ago that has yet to be lifted, and it is up to Heli Geis to fully understand his teachings before the curse can be cured. The art is showcased in fully colored, full-sized pages in a comic story format. Opulent usage of strong blue, deep purple, and cyan hues, contrasted with bright golds for added lighting effects. Find out whether Heli Geis will ever break free from the prison of calligraphy classes and read Prisoner of Paint by Animated Armor, rated T.
And that was Quackcast talking about Prisoner of Paint. Okay, so next up we have featured music. I'm going to give you a bit of an outline of this great theme that Gumwells has done to this comic called Cafe Strange. A melancholic jazz reveal on times past and times yet to come. Off-time percussion, a gently plucked double bass, evocative piano, and an electric violin play a tune of loneliness and possibility. Take it away, Gumwells, with your theme to Cafe Strange. That was Gumwallace with the great comic Cafe Strange, which is a comic by Sinwells, rated T, and it was featured 2 weeks ago by Quackcast. Right. Exposition. Well, this was Quackcast came up with this topic. No, she didn't. This was Tantz's topic she came up with. Just a few minutes ago when we did our little Patreon video, because often what we'll do is for our Patreon video, we won't always have our topic in our heads. So we'll use it as a chance to give people a behind the scenes look as we come up with our great little topics and things. And so they can you can see how the cake is made. And that is how it's made. And we came up with exposition. So Tantz, you're particularly involved in this idea of exposition, aren't you? Because you've just started a brand new comic.
Yeah, and it's a fantasy comic, so you need to lay down the world and everything, so you can't really avoid exposition. But on the other hand, it's also going to be like really thick exposition because there are so many things, and especially like I have this thing where my worlds are generally ridiculously elaborate and have like a gazillion things that because I cannot live without having answers to absolutely everything that crosses my mind about the world. So you can imagine that I have to pick and choose first of all, and prioritize things, and also in the end you have to tell the audience about the world, and it is a tug of war between show and tell, and the idea is to try and show a lot more than tell, and the things that you need to tell, to reveal them as organically as possible through the dialogue. So yeah, that's the entire first chapter of Verdant, and I'm hoping like the entire first chapter in essence is exposition, all of it.
The entire thing. It's just one info dump. It's gigantic text wall after text wall.
I just throw the world book at the at the readers and tell them, have this completed by this time. It will be on the test, and then the story.
Once upon a time, long, long ago.
But joking aside, it really, like the first chapter really is intended as setting the world, showing who is who, what the stakes are, the A plot, so to speak, and the B plot, and like the stakes of the world, and you know what everything, the basic rules of the world, all of that, and my effort is to immerse the reader in the world as seamlessly as possible. Like if I don't want to have to make one of those squares where the narrator steps in and says, okay, let me tell you, like this is happening, or need to explain in my author notes what's happening. So I'm hoping that it is going well. I think it is going well, but we will know by the end of chapter 1 if everyone is on the same page. So we'll see.
Okay. Well, so far I haven't really sort of felt like it's overly expositioning anything. It just seems like a natural introduction to me.
Yay.
Yeah, same. It doesn't feel like you're reading like an encyclopedia entry or like a long intro or anything. You're kind of taking it in as, I mean, there's stuff happening. Characters are struggling with stuff.
Yeah.
We're just kind of meeting them and getting to know them a little bit. So, yeah, it seems to be going well.
Yay. I'm really glad. Hopefully, even I mean, I do have like small little tiny pockets of adventure, and you know, little fights here and there and predicaments here and there, and also I'm doing my first effort of purposefully having humor in it, like having some funny instances, which for me is extremely out of my comfort zone, as you know. As you probably know, I I am more on the drama side rather than the comedy side.
Yes.
So,
Well, I think it's good. One thing that occurs to me is, I watch a lot of anime and stuff like that, and they do this, because it's the same sort of medium. It's a short form. Normally, they are only allowed like 12 or 13 episodes for their initial season, and sometimes they got bored up and they can, I don't know, they get renewed and they can do some more. But often they're stuck with that, and they devote the first 12 episodes, or maybe 6 episodes, to being exposition. And often it's the first series, the first 12 episodes, and they're all exposition. But the funny thing that happens is that I don't know how anyone else sort of copes with this, but for me, I sort of become like really enamored with that that kind of exposition stuff, and I just want that to continue. And when they go, okay, so we're in the second season now we can start the story for real, it's like, no, go back. I want to continue to be introduced to this world. I love it. I was really enjoying like being introduced to everything for the first time. Oh, this is your school. Oh, this is the castle. Oh, this is your magic system, and this is this, and this is, and that's so cool. And then suddenly, oh no, everything goes wrong. We have to fight and do this, and I think, oh, okay, I'm not interested anymore. I just want to have the.
Oh no. I don't know. I hope it won't come to that.
But I mean, do you guys often ever find that sort of thing? Like, I really enjoy that.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I enjoy it too. But I also like how, I mean, assuming it is written well, I like how they then ease into the action. And normally you revisit all the nice stuff that you have already visited. So
Okay.
for me, it doesn't feel like a loss. Now, if when the quote unquote trouble starts, then you get yanked away from all the cool stuff that you have been immersing yourself in, and you go into some other things that you need to learn, then that can be a bit of a burden. In my opinion, this is all my opinion.
I think for me it sort of ties into this other thing that I've been advocating for a while. I haven't had any traction on this idea really. That conflict is not the only interesting element in a story. Like my idea is that progression is just as interesting. Like building up on something is just as interesting without necessarily tension or conflict or anything like that. It's just adding to something, it's showing some progression, and that kind of informational exposition that's like enjoyable sort of feeds into that, and that's incredibly enjoyable. And without that, just going straight into conflict sort of undermines that progress, and you lose that sort of interest. I have never been able to get any traction on that idea that progression is like a driving thing that can make people interested in a story, because people are addicted to this idea of stories are only about conflict or tension or something else. And anyway, so that's my thing.
I mean, how would you define progression?
Exactly. That was exactly what I was.
It's hard. I mean, a lot of people sort of just mentally rationalize that into a kind of conflict, which I think is stupid, because you can rationalize anything to anything if you just going to do that, and that's just an exercise in kind of rationalization. But I think, okay, progression is anything where your sum of knowledge is increased. So either you can do that in an interesting way, like say, okay, so this is this thing, and look at this great valley and meet these new people, and all that kind of stuff. So we're always seeing new things. Or it could be, okay, we've actually developed this new bit of technology, and we're working on this, and this is going to enrich our society. Watch us create this new thing, and yes, we need to work out these things and these things as part of it. So it's all Sorry, my phone's just going beep 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 beep. But
Feels
okay.
like the station is about to, the train's coming to the station or something.
Ding dong. But yeah, anyway, this idea of progression is just anything that's additive, and that can be incredibly enriching to my brain. It's like, say, if you're reading a news article, and a lot of people think, oh, the only thing that is interesting to me in this news article is listening to this, like, oh, there was this conflict, and this happened, and this person was against this person, that person. That's not interesting to me. I like to read a news article that says, yes, this thing happened, and then this, and just keep on adding the information rather than dumping me into this idea of he said, she said conflict. It's just where, okay, so this thing happened in this place and this place, and giving me the facts, like building information. So anyway, I digress.
I would say, like, based on that, okay, we're off topic, doesn't matter though. But any story, and any story, because we're talking stories here, only needs characters with a goal. To have a goal, we want to discover something. We want to explore a world. We want to do whatever, something like that.
No, I would disagree with that, because it's not like. So what I'm talking about isn't that these characters going, we want to, or this is our goal. It's like, we're just presenting this to the viewer. This is the characters. So we don't know what the characters want. This is just we're presenting this to you.
Aren't the characters working on, for example, this new thing that they researching?
Well, that was an example of a different kind of thing, but the other one is just like, okay, so we're viewing this valley, and we meet this person who's the gardener, and we meet this person. So it's just like
so we
adding to the body of knowledge.
What I'm saying is they don't need to actually actively say that, oh, I want to do this. But you need to have characters with agency in order to have a story, for whatever reason, with interests. And having interests is that they want to find something out. That's in a nutshell, what an interest is. I'm interested in this, or I want to explore this, or I want to have pleasure in something.
I'll caveat again, because it's not about necessarily what the character wants. I mean, so the character might want this, but the interesting thing to you isn't that the character wants it. The interesting thing to you is you're finding the stuff out. So that's where it comes from. Right. You don't care what the character goals are.
Well,
you're experiencing. Go on.
What I'm trying to explain is that the reason you are enjoying it, even if you don't care about the characters, is that the way that the characters are set up introduce you to this world in a way that you are excited, you like to experience it.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. So in order for this to happen, you don't need conflict. You need enough of a premise that the character immerses you into this world, whether you are interested in the character or not. All right. Although I would posit that if the character is completely like tasteless and boring, the world is unlikely to be interesting. But whatever, let's say not. So what I'm saying is that the way it sounds to me, what you're saying is that all you really need, you really don't need like aggressive conflict or people clashing with one another. But what you do need is characters having agency and doing things in the world. And that's how you learn about it. That's how I present it. So you can reject it, of course, but I don't see how, like, if you have people that are not doing things, then you cannot know the world. It's as simple as that. People just sit there and are not doing anything.
Yeah, well, they'd be walking or driving and talking. And...
They're still doing things.
Reading, you read
yeah.
on the show.
They are still doing things, is my point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was gonna say like it's another valid way to look at the structure of the story though is to see it not in terms of conflict, like a character wants something and something's in the way. That's kind of the basic building blocks of drama as we understand it.
Mm-hmm.
But another way to look at things is like it's kind of like the layers of an onion, either on the character or the world or both, where you first meet a character and you see the surface level, kind of like how they present themselves to the world. That's what you see first. And
Mm-hmm.
then slowly as things go forward, you're seeing, oh, they're not, maybe they're unhappy, or something's off, or they're struggling, or they're stuck, or something like that. And you sort of slowly, as the story goes on, you see deeper layers until you finally learn, hopefully, at a certain point, that yeah, they're wounded in some way, and
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that,
they're.
that is one way to go.
I mean, it goes along with a plot at the same time a lot of
Yeah.
times. Yeah.
And another way would be like this person is basically okay. They are interested in XYZ. They are pursuing that. Through that, we learn a lot of things. They learn a lot of things. They get excited. We get excited. We love the world, and that's all.
Sure, definitely.
So that is also another way. The point, the whole point of all of this is that in order to get the world across to an audience, the characters must organically interact with it in some way. It might be conflict, it might not be conflict, it might be something else. They have to be doing things in it, abiding by its laws, and interacting in a way as if they have grown up in this world. So
Right.
Yeah. I mean, when the idea first occurred to me was watching Mythbusters. So I love that show.
yeah, but that is not a story though. That is non-fiction.
It's not. But it
Kind of,
is
yeah.
still a story.
There's conflict. There's conflict in that story.
So
Yeah.
So a story is a story, whether it's non-fiction or fiction. You're always presenting information to people in a way they can follow along and be interested in and get involved in, like a linear progression from here to here. And in the early episodes, they had a certain style of editing that was way more linear. So we'd have one story from the main crew, and then we'd have the other story from the other crew, and we'd go from the start to finish, and we'd go through from, okay, so here is the myth we want to prove, whether this is real or not. And here is how we're going to do it. And we slowly build on this and work out different ways of doing it.
So they have a goal and they want to do something.
But the interesting thing isn't the goal or what they want to do. The interesting thing is following the progression.
Of course.
Okay, so we build on this, and then we try this, and then we experiment with that, and that was so amazingly interesting. Because it builds on it. And that's why it's interesting, because we start from here, then we build, and then in the later seasons of this show, they hired obviously some kind of moron to do the editing, who was more interested in doing like the reality shows. You know how reality shows are; they have fake conflict in order to.
I remember more of that.
So that's the editing massively changed. So instead of having like simple progression from here to here to here, this dickweed would cut. Okay, we're doing this, and then before we get to the result of this little experiment, then we cut to the B team. Then before they get to resolve this thing, then we cut. So there's always cliffhangers, and they emphasized like any conflict between people. And what that had the effect of doing was destroying the interest in the progression, because when you're cutting away, all that built up interest you had from seeing this thing to add to that thing just disappears, and you can't get that back. So it reduced the interest.
Can I say something on this? Because that's the problem here, is that the dickweed that you mentioned changed the story. Because the original thing that you described is that the story was a group of people want to discover whether something works or not. They do an experiment, they find out. And we watch the stages of the experiment. They explain how they go around doing things. They try stuff. They go to places. They make things explode. Everything is awesome. And then the guy with the weed comes in and he changes the story. The story isn't anymore. Isn't anymore whether they prove the myth, even though that's what they pretend it is. The more focus is on, okay, who is having friction with whom, who is competing with who is the a-hole and who is the good guy, and who is, like, they are telling a different story. And of course you are not interested in that because you signed up for story number one, which is, let's go through an adventure finding whether XYZ thing actually can happen.
Yeah, I mean, I'd agree with that, but I also want to reiterate that it's not just the chains; it's that you still invested. I mean, you could still theoretically be invested in that same story, despite the cuts. You could still go because I mean, they do follow it from A to B to C to D, and then just go to the end. It's just that now it's all jumbled up with the other one, but because it is jumbled up, you don't have that linear progression in your mind, in your head. It's not to the fore anymore. So it doesn't
that's
work.
also bad storytelling. But that's and that's like the worst way to engage people, in my opinion. So, but I also don't like reality TV. So when shows go shift towards the reality TV a lot, I completely tune out. Had this experience with MasterChef, which I used to really like to watch because I like cooking shows. And then it was all drama about how contestant number A is at the throat of contestant number B, who does machinations with contestant number C, and they are all brooding against the queen or king a-hole contestant number D. So nobody cares about that. Go cook.
All you want to know, is like a linear progression in the foods. You want to know, okay, so what ingredients have they got? Why do they use the ingredients? Okay, so how do they cook it? Now, how do they prepare it? How do they cook it? And what is the result? And that is just is a beautiful kind of, that builds on, and it creates this lovely little thing that you've
exactly.
got.
And to add the insult to injury, in the worst season where I said, okay, I'm out, I'm not interested anymore. We had it's like 40 minutes of drama and the bold and the beautiful in cooking, and then we didn't even get to see how they cook the damn food. We just got the result. Here is the plate. I don't care about the plate now. I wanted to see how you made it.
Right.
Exactly. You want to see how it is actually made. Progression is a frickin' thing. I mean, it really is. And people these days don't understand it. I think people in the past used to understand, but we've become so focused on the idea of conflict and tension. But oh my God, we've gone so far away from the idea of exposition. So.
Well, it is what people are expositing on, because they are not doing the progression. They are not doing the progression, like progressively revealing. Like they sell you on a premise, cooking show, Mythbusters, a fantasy world, or an anime world, or whatever. And then it's a little bit of a bait and switch, and it's Mean Girls in fantasy school A.
Oh yeah.
Nobody cares about that. That is not what I'm here to watch progress. I'm here to watch the magic progress and how you become stronger wizards, or that sort of thing.
I mean, that can be amazingly exciting, interesting. If you have a fantasy world where there's a school, I don't know, I've never really watched Harry Potter, I've only seen the first film, but say you've got a fantasy magic school, and if you show people learning how to use their magic and like, oh my god, like Jenny knows how to use a fireball, and John learned how to use a fireball and also wind magic, and combined them in this really spectacular way to create this fire vortex, and that's amazing. And now they're all looking at these fire vortex and seeing how they can use different elements in order to combine them, create different magical attacks, and that's amazing. And then instead of doing that, they just say, oh, and this evil wizard comes in and they all have to fight him, and then we're not doing this this exploring of new magical techniques, and we're just having to fight this guy.
They should, the secret in this is that you must always keep the progression going and keep it relevant with the conflict that you have. Like if the evil wizard appears, first of all, the kids, you have to explain why the kids are the ones fighting and not the teachers, first of all, which is a thing that never happens. But the second thing is that you have to show the teachers rushing, struggling to prep the kids to not be sitting ducks, with more progression in their magic.
Yeah.
And you get to see more things, especially with the time crunch. Oh, I would be teaching you that in like 2 years, but now you have to learn it now. And it's super dangerous because you might, blow yourself up. But I'm here. I'm going to make sure that you won't blow yourself up. But please be careful. But let's go on with it. But please be careful. That sort of thing.
And they learn stuff from the fight. Like, oh, Jenny unlocked a new talent. Wow, I know how to heal myself now and others. It's this new talent. I needed to, the stress induced me in order to learn how to heal people because of this terrible wound the wizard inflicted on my friend. And now I can do this. This is a new ability.
Exactly. Or, the classroom clown learned how to manifest a giant, bird that he can flip at the wizard. Like a flag.
With Tantz, it always comes to the middle finger. Always.
Yeah, flipping the bird.
And the whole idea is that if you sorry, okay, I
love it.
The entire idea of this is that you have to make sure that you keep progressing your characters in the stuff that makes the world unique, whatever that is, and the premise that you have introduced, while a plot is happening. So hopefully this goes on in Verdant. We will see. But that's the point. That's the whole point.
I mean, it also calls to mind how interesting, definitely in a fantasy story, how interesting it can be to just sit with a character and see how magic works and see what they might be struggling with or working on or whatever, and how does magic work, and how does, even if you're not doing exposition on the whole political system of the world, it's where do they exist in it? See it through their eyes, just their kind of microcosm of what.
Exactly.
And again, it usually comes to conflict. It's because that's has bite, I think, but what do they struggle with in terms of where they are in the political system, without explaining the entire politics? You show their
that would be for a political science class. What, for example, and I go back to Verdant because it's in my head all the time these days. But the idea is that all the characters basically don't know certain things about their own world and the magic of the world and their religions, because they have the same religion, although it couldn't be different between factions, and that has led them to different manifestations of magic. So that is something that it hasn't been conceptualized yet, even in the characters. So the progression is that these characters are going to be learning about their own world in a mystical way alongside us, and what it means until, and what about these gods, and do these gods exist, and if they exist, where do they exist, and blah blah. That sort of thing as well. Which is going to be, I hope it's going to be as funny as I have it in my head when they get to after that, because it's not going to be anything they expect, and hopefully nothing the reader expects. But we will see. So there.
Oh, well, I think your reveal, like your exposition, like how it's parsed out over time, is going to be built right into that, right? Like as the
hopefully.
Things. So that's good.
Progression, everything like the A plot is designed to build on smaller revelations that we get to find out, and the characters get to find out, and then they become hopefully stronger, and we'll see.
Yeah. So at first, you sort of figure out. I'm just guessing, assuming that it becomes clear bit by bit what they believe now, how they deal with magic now, where they're at now, what their kind of perceptions are of the whole thing, and then it can expand as they're.
And then we start to chip away at that.
Yeah, neat.
So,
nice.
yeah, and then the world says, "Oh, you think that you know?" Okay.
Yeah. And then going all the way to gods and everything.
Yes.
Very exciting.
And then you shoot Basil in the head.
What? Yes.
Then you shoot.
I'm never going to live this down, and in a way, I love it. But in another way, I feel terrible still.
We'll be haunted by that forever.
I know. I sort of like it though, but I managed to do something like that. Then it's gonna haunt me forever now. Yeah. So that's Exposition.
Lovely.
Very well done.
There's something. I don't know if I should bring it up now. But it's something I think I wanted to do it for a news post. I don't think I actually did it. I might be wrong because I was just kind of studying it, and I just heard about it a few weeks ago and a couple months ago or whatever, and I was studying it a little bit. It's a story structure that apparently is what's used in all manga and anime, and it's super commonly used. And conflict is not really an integral part of this story structure. I don't know if you guys have heard of this. It's called Kisho Tenketsu.
No, I haven't heard.
Okay.
So this is like story structure that's taught in elementary school, apparently, in Japan. This is like the Eastern version of story structure. It's like sort of Kiko, what is it? Yeah, Kisho Tenketsu. So Ki, like, it's 4-part story structure. So the first part sets the scene, introduce this world, the facts or whatever. Show is the second one, and it builds on these facts. It's kind of what Oz was talking about earlier. Like it's sort of you see things progress, or your understanding progresses, or details are added on, or
okay,
whatever, nuances are added on. And then the third part, some unrelated element comes into play. So there's some kind of twist, there's some kind of change. It might not be a massive like earthquake or a massive like plot reversal or something, but some kind of twist, some unrelated element. And then in the fourth part, it kind of all comes together. So I don't know if I did the news post, like I said, because I don't know manga really well. I don't understand it really well yet. So this is kind of more academic for me, but it's very interesting and not necessarily, like I said, not necessarily based on conflict. So,
okay, excellent. Oh, I like that. So, yeah, because I mean, people do culturally come up with different ways of doing stories. Like we're very sort of caught up in this idea of the whole hero's journey or whatever, you know, different ways of sort of standard ways of starting making stories, but there are totally different ways of doing it, no? Because it's cultural. It's not universal. So it's a good point to bring up that this Japanese version, which is Kushoten Katsu. Kushoten Katsu. That sounds pretty cool. So yeah, is
well, you got the pronunciation quickly. It took me a long time.
I'm just copying you. So it's it's a totally valid but very different way of making a story, which is interesting.
And it doesn't preclude conflict being in there. There can definitely, obviously, can be conflict. There can be a heroic journey. There can be heroes and villains, and all that stuff can be in there.
I'll say one of my favorite parts of the standard Western way of telling a story is, I think it's the fun and games part. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Like there's an early part of the story where it's mainly about you're living in the world. So you introduce the world, then you're living in the world. You introduce the world, you show how it works, and then the next stage is to show, okay, so this is how we live in the world that we've introduced. And then the next stage after that is to show, and we'll show you why you can't live in the world. We'll show you why this is all being threatened. And the fun stories to me are the ones where we just hang around in the fun and games, like living in the world for a bit longer before we mess it up. And the really bad stories to me are the ones where we're introduced to the world, we live in it for about 2.5 seconds, and then everything just gets destroyed. And I just hate those stories. It's like, okay, so none of that meant anything to me. That world, I don't care that it's lost because I never got a chance to enjoy it. So who cares that this character is mourning for their lost world because I didn't experience it? Well, I don't know.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And that might be more of a modern thing. Like people, it's kind of like get to it quickly. Like get the story going more quickly and stuff like that. Not always the best. It's not the right move for every story,
Yeah, it's definitely not, because if you're going to make the effort to develop this interesting bulbous character to live in, you might as well give people a chance to enjoy it, what you've created, instead of just all like, unless the whole purpose of the thing is to be the apocalyptic world, like Fallout, for instance. You're not going to hang around there with the perfect version of what do they live in these big silos things, whatever. So you're not going to just going to live in that forever. You're going to have to chuck people into the destroyed apocalyptic version of the world, because that's the whole point of it. But for a lot of other stories, you really have to sell someone on why this world is important to this character, why their child is important to them, or their favorite car, or whatever, the thing you're going to make them lose in order to, create your little conflict. There's got to be... You've got to create that relationship between the audience and the things that character loves. That's what I feel. Like, too many creators don't care about creating that. They expect people to already know, because a child-parent love is universal, so everyone automatically understands this. We don't need to build on that. We don't need to show people their relationship to their city that gets destroyed, or their job, or their lovely world. We don't need to do that. I mean, sometimes it can go the other way. They can spend way too long on it, and you can get bored. Like in The Matrix, for example. Like, I like The Matrix. It's a great film, but we do spend a bit too long in his boring office. Like, watching it again, it's just, oh my god, I don't care about his boring life here. It's just so shit. So yeah. Should we finish up, guys?
Sure.
All right. Well, this has been our Ramblecast. I'm wearing a Led Zeppelin t-shirt, so I'm rambling on, which is one of their favorite, my very big hits. All right. So yeah, Quackcast number 682. I'm as a Notion, and you've been Tantz and Baines. Bye-bye.
Bye.